it on the phone.
It is way different than
It's
on
way
the computer.
different. Let's chit chat for a minute. We'll wait for more people to hop on and hang out with us. I'm really excited to talk about all things eyeliner tonight, and I'd love for anyone wants to play along, we can. Obviously, I've been already playing in like piles of eyeliner myself, and messing with like tons of different products. I'm actually going through my entire office, not just, it's like my backstock, my kit, my personal, I'm going through everything and just like getting rid of stuff. And that's been one of the most challenging things with hardly being able to work this year because of everything. Like makeup is use it or lose it.
True.
When you're not going through stuff and using stuff, it goes bad and you got to get rid of it sometimes. And especially in Colorado, like so many things, especially eyeliners, dry out. And I feel like aside from skincare, liners, the integrity of the product gets compromised really easily depending on the environment, depending on how you use it, depending on the packaging, all of that stuff. I mean, it's a very there's a very real impact. And so it's sad when you go to open something up and it's just like totally dried out and doesn't know, where it just like doesn't perform the way you want it to perform. So do you guys have any specific questions you want me to for sure cover? Any specific like liner techniques you for sure want me to? I mean, we're going to kind of go through all of it as much as we can. Marla, what do you want?
I need to know, what is the process for a hooded eye for a liner, or should you just forget it? Or a wing, I meant a wing.
A wing for a hooded eye? No, that's a great question. That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's
I keep trying, but I keep failing.
That's my same question. The hooded eye thing. Because it looks like when I open my eyes, like there's this big like dip because of all of this beautiful thing. And I just don't know if it's like, I don't know what to do.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it for sure. And it like, that's the thing about like winged liner generally, is that I don't think that it's something that we always have to force if it's not working. Winged liner for everybody takes practice, but especially because our skin moves and changes, and anything that's that much of a hard line and that precise, like a wing, is going to show symmetry differences, and it's going to show like the movement and all of that. And I feel like I kind of mentioned it a little bit before, but we'll go into probably more detail tonight when we play. It's like not every wing has to be this like super hard line. There's a lot of ways to get something that's more diffuse, something that's a little softer with a wing, and not always just that super hard line. But we'll talk about some of the tricks. Any other specific questions you all want me to maybe cover or have in the back of my mind? And I'm going to make you all remind me as we go through all of it too. Anyone?
I'll just let you know, my favorite liner is on my waterline, underneath my lash, not on top of my lash.
Yep. So we'll talk about all those ways to use and tightline and all the different options that we have. So I kind of want to just jump in and talk about, like, there's so many different types of eyeliner and so many different products out there. And different, you can use different products to get the same effect. So really, there's a lot of it has to do with like what type of product you're most comfortable with, and you know, how you want it to wear. Like, how long do you want it to wear? What level of pigment do you want? What type of finish do you want? All these different things are taken into consideration when we're choosing products. So first type of product is kind of, you know, everyone knows what this is. These are the liner pencils, but there's a lot of different types of liner pencils. So these are a long wearing gel pencil. So something like a long wearing gel pencil, and I didn't clean my hand intentionally because I wanted to use this as an example, but a long wearing gel pencil, you're going to get it on and it's going to have very minimal time to be able to blend it, and it's going to set really hard. And some long wearing pencils, you actually can't even blend at all. They just go on and they're on and they are set. There's also, and I miss this type of pencil, the Kohl liner. Sorry, I have like a whole pile of liner in front of me. Let me try and find one of my Kohl pencils. But a Kohl pencil is a liner pencil. It's kind of the OG type of liner pencil that you could put on, and they glide on really nicely, and then they're very smudgeable. A Kohl pencil does not actually set, and they work really great as a base, and to be used under shadows. You can obviously draw a hard line with them, but they're not going to have the same length of wear, but they're really super easy to use. And this is kind of like the OG makeup artist trick to a lot of smoky looks and smudgy looks, is taking a Kohl pencil and smudging it and really blending it out. It diffuses really easily, and then topping it with different shadows. But as so many things have transitioned to products that are like super, 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 super long wearing. And those long wearing pencils just don't always have the blendability, but they, and you also have to make sure you keep the cap on and all that, because they will dry down in the packaging sometimes. Now, next type of liner that I find really interesting is something like this. This is, so I go like this and nothing's coming off on my finger. Who knows what this is? What type of?
Water activated.
Yeah, so
it's cake.
Yep, cake. So I've been hearing all these people call it water activated. Like, really, it's like in makeup world, right? Like we call it cake liner.
Okay.
And this is really what, I mean, mascara used, like everything kind of used to be water activated like that. Liners, mascaras, all of this stuff, they would come in a compact, and you would get them wet, and then you'd use a brush. And these are really cool in a lot of ways, because you can really control the depth of pigment. I feel like they are very easy to use. They don't always have the same wearability, but you could, instead of just using water, you can use something that's like a long wearing transformer with something like this. And you can get a great, you can diffuse this, you can smudge it, or you can do a really beautiful winged line with something like a cake liner.
Stephanie, what do you mean by diffuse? Sorry, my video is not working. I'm in a hotel room.
All good. So when it's, anytime something is diffused, so it's like smudge. So if I want to diffuse something like this, this is just like a kind of liner pencil shadow thing. I can do like a line, or I can use my finger, or I can use a brush, and I can blend it out and diffuse it. So when I diffuse something, I'm taking it and I'm smudging it, and we're diffusing it, and we're just like working that how we want to work it.
Okay. I see it. Thank you.
And not every type of product you can do that with. Now the next type of product also comes in a pot. Who knows what this probably is? What type of liner this is?
Gel.
Gel liners. This one's a little different, because this one is my little stamp one, because I thought this was really fun to pull out. But gel liners come in a pot like that. They're super long wearing. They're really the original version of what they've made into a lot of these pencils now, which is like the gel pencil. The gel pencil is kind of like the baby of like a pencil liner and the gel pot. Really long wearing. You use a brush. They can absolutely dry out. I just had to throw one away, 2 of them away today, I think, when I was going through all my stuff, because they do tend to dry out in Colorado pretty easily, at least. And they're a great option for things when you want to use a brush, you want it really long wearing, you can get a really great wing with that also. And it's a great type of liner product, but again, not everybody wants to or like I said, it's always just depends like what works for you, you know. Now we are going to move on to liquid. So there's a ton of different types of liquid liners. There are, and I have like a million in front of me. One's like the one I just held up, which is a liner pen with an actual brush. So this has an actual brush in it, and I have to shake it. And you can get this really beautiful fine line with an actual brush. Now there are products that have a little pot with a brush. So this is another one that has a brush, and like all the product is actually in here, and you dip the brush in and you pull it out. Another type of liner pen that we have is this one's a felt tip. So they have ones where the product's in here and it comes out, but it has a felt tip applicator and it's like a marker. So those are kind of the most common types of liquid liners. Now the pros and cons to each. The felt tip, you can get, I find if you're going for like a really big wide line, because you get a lot of different shapes and sizes with felt tip liquid liners. There's like a ton of different shapes and sizes, and typically they're very long wearing products. Now the challenge, again, because everything's gone towards like crazy long wearing, is that felt can actually clog, and it can be a little harder to manage the flow of the product when that porous tip starts to clog. So I love products that have brushes, but the two different types, it's kind of personal preference, but a brush is not going to clog, and the product flows out really seamlessly from a brush tip applicator. So does anyone have any questions on kind of the different types of liners that we have? And again, like, you're going to be able to get different, I mean, there's like glitter liners and all sorts of things. And then this one, which is super fun, which it's actually a stamp, and was created to help. And I wonder if I actually have the stamp here. It's meant to make a winged liner more, oh, here it is, more accessible. So you literally take this, and it's a double-ended stamp, and you pop it in here and get your product on here. Been sitting a bit. Get my product on.
Are you using a powder right now?
Huh?
Are you using a powder or a gel? What did you just dip that in?
It's the actual stamp pad. So it actually has a little stamp pad in there. Okay. And then it just gets stamped on for like a little wing, which is fun because it's, you know, we talked about earlier how wing can be so hard, and I think it's a great accessibility option too. There are a lot of things coming out that just really help with the accessibility of things, and I think it's just a really fun thing. So there's just a ton of different types of liners and options. Now, the final one that I love and I use a lot, I actually absolutely love using eyeshadows to line. If you have a really good quality eyeshadow, it works great as a liner. You need obviously a good brush, but my favorite combination is a setting spray sprayed on my brush, or a transformer gel mixed into one of my favorite eyeshadows. And then I have like an unlimited color range. And again, when you're using a shadow, you can get a really hard line, like for a wing, or just a really hard line at your lash line. You can do something really soft and diffused and something really subtle. You can use it as a base for a smoky eye look. There's like a ton of ways to use shadow. And I feel like using a shadow with a good brush, like, anybody can do it. Absolutely anybody can do it. The challenge with all these different types of liners is there's a different viscosity and fluidity, and they dry down differently and they blend differently, and some things you need a brush and some things you don't. Not everything's going to work for everyone, but shadow is so absolutely forgiving, and I find that it's just so easy to use. And it's my go-to recommendation for anybody that really struggles with different liner techniques, is like, play in a shadow, because it's also the easiest to remove. I always have my handy dandy little mini Q-tips when I'm going to be doing liner stuff, but shadow is so much easier to remove. When you have these crazy long wear products and you feel like you've made a mistake, they're so much harder. They're so much harder to remove if you feel like you've messed something up. So who's ready to play? Shall we just start playing in some stuff? Now, we did have the question at the beginning, if there's anyone on who wasn't here at the beginning, a really great question about winged liner and liner generally with a hooded eye. I also want to talk about waterline stuff. So we're just going to get into it and we're just going to start playing, and I'm going to share a couple of my absolute most favorite liner tips for everyone also, because I've got some really great tricks up my sleeve. So I've got my makeup remover also, because we're probably doing stuff and taking it off and just seeing what happens. And I decided, instead of trying to do mascara, I'm just gonna nab a pair of my fake lashes and just kind of like set my lashes on, because it's really hard to see what something actually looks like when you don't have lashes on, but we're not going to be putting mascara on in between all this stuff. So you guys ready to rock and roll and ready to play? Let's do it. All right, so let's get down to the first question with liner and winged liner and a hooded eye. So a hooded eye is an eye shape that is incredibly common. I probably get the most questions about looks on the eye for hooded eyes the most. And really, it's an eye shape where you really, when the eye is open, you can't really see the lid space. The skin.
You have your earbuds.
Did I get weird?
Yeah.
Okay. Better?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why it always does that. It gets like weird on me partway through. But so one of the things I was mentioning earlier with winged liner. So winged liner is something that just takes practice, but also it's not something that a hard wing looks good on everybody. I just don't agree with that. I feel like the idea of a wing is to create lift, because our eye goes up and then it goes down, and every eye shape is different. And that downward shape can be much more exaggerated on different eye shapes. And that wing, what it does is it goes down and then it creates this great lift to make sure everything pulls upward and we get that awesome lift. But there's a lot of ways to get that effect as well, not just with a wing. And if we get so exaggerated, and anytime you have a hard line, it's going to show that exact shape. And so that's why the execution is really important. But we can get that lift with making sure we have on mascara and sometimes an additional little lash at that outer corner. Or we can use our diffusion techniques to blend it so it's not necessarily a hard line, but we're still getting that lift and that effect. So one of the things that I like to use when I am doing a look on a hooded eye is I like using two different products. It's a mix of probably a shadow, and then I am going to use my liquid liner to really define that lash line. So I'm gonna let's pick some colors, because whatever you do on the lid with a hooded eye, that essentially is your liner, because really the only thing that you are going to see with that eye is what you have at the lash line. So it's great because you can just, what color do we want to use? What are we in the mood? I'm just grabbing some stuff. So I'm going to start with a shadow. And all I have on my eye right
brown.
Brown.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So if you want to do a different one.
Now, all I have on for makeup from my eye, I just did like a neutral right here, just really quickly to create some depth. And that's all I have, just like a neutral brown. So let's should we do something like purpley? I mean, we're here, we should have some fun, use some color.
Fun.
I mean,
why am I picking brown?
So are you going to pretend you have hooded eyes right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. And actually on this one eye, my eye on this side is much heavier than the other. Like I'm so much more expressive on this side of my face that as I've aged, when these muscles are relaxed, they sit much heavier. And so my brow on this side is much higher, my eye is much higher. And that's another thing too to take into consideration is that we're going for symmetry as far as what the finish look looks like. We're not going for exact symmetry with how we apply. I have to do my application different on each side to actually make it look the same because my eye shape is different on both sides and I have much more heaviness on this side. So with a hooded eye, that would just sit lower because you can see much less of my lid on this side than the other. So I'm going to play on this side with this look.
That's the same with me.
Yeah, first it's a common thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm working with small brushes. So I'm going to show you some of the tools that I'm using. I just had my liner brush. There's a few different great liner brushes too. I think, what did I just do with that? I had it all set right here. So a couple of my favorites are, absolutely love this awesome tiny blending brush, this small brush. I love this Smokey liner brush. We have the bent liner brush and then my angled liner brush. Oh, it's right here in front of me. This is my non-negotiable for any eyeliner stuff that I do. I always have a brush in my hand, but I love this liner brush because it's super baby thin and I can blend with it and I can perfect, like this is a must. So you don't have a nice thin angled liner brush, that's something that you need to add to your list. I think they're really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this kind of pretty purpley color. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this Smokey liner brush and I'm going to spray it with my setting spray. And I'm going to go into my product, my shadow. I'm just going to get it on there. So here's what's really cool about hooded eye looks is that precision in so many ways is not nearly as important because again, when the eye is open, you're only going to see pretty much just at the lash line. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this bad boy so I can see. And I am going to just paint it on. See how that just created a paint with the shadow in that setting spray? It made it so easy and I'm just painting it on really quickly. And it's really important when you're doing looks like this to get it into your lash line. You do not want a gap between where your product is and your eyelash line. And shadow is much easier to kind of get into that space. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting it on there. And I'm going to now take that thin baby liner brush and I'm going to run this along the top edge and soften it and I'm going to diffuse it. And I'm going to just go back and forth with this bent liner brush and I'm just going to soften it and diffuse it. And do you see even now how you pretty much just see that? If the more hooded the eye is, the wider or thinner that's going to be. I actually really love doing a wider line on a hooded eye because you're going to see just like a beautiful, soft, cool liner look when you do that. And then you can obviously tell it's wider when the eye is closed. But again, we don't care what the makeup looks like when our eyes are closed. We care what our makeup looks like when our eyes are open because we live in the world with our eyes open generally. So
Stephanie, I have a question. Because I have hooded eyes, I want to always diffuse and do the thicker kind of a line look rather than a thinner one.
I love, well, I'm doing this to show like a winged look, but I absolutely on a hooded eye love when we're trying to go for a liner look. I actually love doing a wider look, diffusing it, and then just depending on how heavy that is, it's just going to determine how much of that line you see. And I'll kind of finish the look and I'll show you where we pop in some light. But this is how I always like to start, is doing this. And on me, it looks a lot wider because I don't have a hooded eye. And you can even go in and just blend it even more. Now what I'm going to do to show that wing is I'm going to go back in with this bent liner brush with my eyes open. And I'm going to take that same color and I'm going to see where my lower lash line and my upper lash line meet. And I'm actually going to just look straight ahead and I'm going to pull out from there.
Do you have on the time setter with that, or is it just dry?
No, I just have this dry. When I'm mapping out any wing, I love, no matter what the eye shape is, I love using this liner brush, eyes open, straight ahead, and just that little space right there where the eye meets towards that brow, just like that. Because if I'm wanting to do a really hard wing, I still want to be able to get it right. And like I said, all these other products, they're so long wearing, they're not that easy to remove. But if I create a map ahead of time with a shadow, I have something that I can go right over the top of, and I know it's going to be absolutely perfect. And so I love doing that. And this liner brush is so perfect for that. It's literally like a stamp, like that vamp stamp is just like stamp it on, good to go. And it's going to be just the right angle when you're starting at this little center space here and going outwards towards the brow. Now, we can get a bit of extra heaviness through here, which is why I love doing this with a shadow, because then what we can do is just blend inward on top of that heaviness and that skin, where we can get these skin folds here and just blend it inward and create that diffused wing and that lift, as opposed to just having a super hard line. And you can just go back over it if you want and see how that is just nice and soft and diffused. Now I can go in with a shadow brush or something. And if I do want to then go over the top of it with like a round where I have sprayed the setting spray on there and really make sure it's long wearing. Because when you do it with the setting spray, it's really nice and long wearing. And then you just blend it out and then finish your eyeshadow look. And I can do a whole, we can do a whole one of these Zooms specifically on doing a whole eye look for a hooded eye, but I'm really just trying to focus on the liner part of it. And specifically this kind of wing we were talking about for that. But this is one of my favorite techniques. And this is what I have to do, because like I said, on this eye, it's so much heavier for me right through here. And this, if I'm trying to use my liner pen and I'm cutting across the wrong area, what it's going to do is it's going to almost create like a squiggle, is what the skin does here. But we want to just go right over the top. And it's nice and pretty and diffused. And you see how, and again, if I had a true hooded eye, you would actually really only be seeing what is at my lash line here.
Did you get your resume in?
Yeah, I got the whole thing in.
So we got that. Now, this is one of my other tricks. Now, this is what I do. If I have, Cal, can we mute? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether or not I have, if I'm doing like a wing or just like a nice line with my gel pencil or liner, eyeshadow for liner, one of my favorite steps to do, and remember how I said we don't want a space between our liner and our lashes. This is one of Stephanie Classy's most favorite liner tricks added into this. So I love doing a second step when I have done my liner. And I love taking this liner pen, and it's super baby thin. And I want to make sure, again, because when you're only seeing a small portion of the lid, depending on your eye shape, if there's spacing there, you're going to see the skin through there. So what I love doing is taking the super baby thin liner pen afterwards. And before I do my mascara, I just go right along the lash line. And I just kind of stamp it. And I'm not trying to quote unquote line my eyes. I'm not trying to get a thick line. I'm really just trying to stamp this on and make sure I don't have any additional gapping between that first product that I used and my lashes. I'm also trying to just create a little depth there. It's going to make your lashes look longer. So I always love to make sure that when I do a look where it's a little more diffused, whether I'm doing the pencil or the shadow, to just go back through and just do that fine stamp right there, right at the lash line. And if you feel like there is a little more gapping, and this is really important when you do have a hooded eye, again, because that lash line is everything, you can go and also take a liner if you want to, up underneath here and tight line the upper part of the eye. And I am so blind, and this actually drives me crazy. I hate doing this on myself, but it does make a huge difference. I have a hard time going back and forth and doing this, so I actually do upward strokes like this.
So you're going inside your eye, like under the eyelash? To pull up your eye again, show me where you put that. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's why we do this. Like right like this, and I lift up. It's very attractive when you do it. You're gonna feel lovely. But just get it all up in there. And again, we're filling that space right at the lash line, and it just creates this really awesome depth, and it's really subtle, but it makes a huge difference for the fill that's there. And let's pop on a lash, see what it looks like.
Did you do underneath, inside the eye, all the way inside? Because I feel like I just did mine. I wish you could see it. I look like a drunk panda. But I feel like it made my eye look smaller. Like,
Well,
it kind of shrunk my eye.
if you go all the way around and do it on this inner part of the eye too, it can absolutely close off that space. So if you feel like you're afraid of making your eye look smaller, don't do the bottom part of the waterline. The top part of the waterline isn't going to create that. It's not going to make that look smaller. But if you do it on the bottom, it can absolutely do that. So let's pop this little lash on. It's not going to be glued, but I just want to kind of show you.
Stephanie, while you put that on, it dawned on me what my struggle has been. I've been going on my waterline and then trying to make my wing from there, but I haven't gone to the bottom of the curve in the eye.
Mhm.
I've stayed on the top part, and I've just not liked it. But you went toward the bottom of that curve, and that really looks nice.
Well, and again, you have to work with your individual eye shape. And you see how different, I mean, granted, this is not like the smallest lash in the world, but again, a lash is going to help create that lift as well. And now that I have the lash on, it's like all about what's going on at that lash line. Now, like you said, Marla, I always say, like with lip stuff, like, you know, your natural lip line is merely a suggestion. Like, it's kind of like that for our features. Like, your features are kind of like a good suggested starting point. We're going to like make happen what we want to make happen. But when with our eye shape, especially when we have this skin here, if we don't come out far enough from that, like, see how I'm kind of going and following this line like this. It's going to be different for everyone's eye shape. You really have to work with the texture that's there. And like I said, my eye shape through here is totally different than what I have through here. And so do it with your eyes open and turn your head and look and see what it's actually doing. And you don't always have to do that hard line. And if you are doing a hard line, you literally have to go straight over the top, literally straight over the top of what is there and that skin and that folded skin, and you literally just draw straight over the top of it. And so it's a really interesting liner shape when your eyes close, because it literally, see how it created this kind of thing through here? But when I open, it's a wing. See how I did that? See what happened? It's literally just utilizing what's there and then building in the shape that you want. But play with it. And Gwen Stefani's makeup artist, it's interesting when you look, her eyeliner a lot of times, because she does do a very hard wing, he actually comes out much farther, because from the front you don't notice it, but from the side, when you can see a little bit more of the texture through here, he actually brings that line out much further and down, and actually to the outside of where that heaviness is. And he literally brings it out much further and then up. And you can also do that as well. So does anybody have any other specific questions about this fun eyeliner look that we just did? And I love your comments on that, Marla. Thank you.
Did I do okay?
Let me see. I'm gonna tap you.
Oh, so pretty.
Oh my God, Kellyanne, your makeup is perfect. How did you do that?
I love all of you. Okay.
Yeah,
Good about
that looks awesome, Cal. Love it. And it's always fun when you just have it on one eye. But again, practice makes perfect. And what I'll say with anything to do with a wing, especially, you have to try it for like 7 days in a row for it to really like take. You're gonna totally screw up. You're gonna feel like a crazy panda lady person, but it's okay. Have a good makeup remover. And one of the tricks that I love is I don't always love tackling stuff with makeup remover, but I'll take a little lotion or eye cream on my hand. This is a great makeup artist trick for you. Baby Q-tips. I love baby Q-tips, but obviously regular ones work. And then what you can do is this swirl technique with a little eye cream on there, and just, I'm twirling it in my hand, and you just fix the shape, and you can totally clean up whatever shape you want. A lot of times when I have to get someone ready, I don't have time to make it perfect right away. I have time to get it done as much as I can get it done. And then I perfect it when I can perfect it. So that's the thing with a wing too. Like there's this expectation that we're supposed to be able to just like take whatever we have and just like slap on this perfect wing. I can only do that when I am doing a wing like every single day for a long amount of time. But when I haven't worn a wing line for a while, and then I go to do this, I'm like, do I even do makeup for my job? Like, what is actually happening right now? Why am I so terrible at this? And I can't get it right, and I can't get it even, and I can't get it balanced. It drives me crazy. But these little bad boys and a little eye cream on there, it just works wonders. And then you can even go in when you're all finished and everything's done with a little concealer and just set it, and it will be like perfect. So don't stress out too about feeling like it has to be like insanely perfect right away. Like the little tricks to clean it up, you'd be surprised once you get it on. If you just kind of clean up and carve out that shape with a product on a small Q-tip, you can make it perfect. It's gonna be great. Don't even worry about it. Alrighty, Rue. What should we tackle next? I think we should play with some of these gel liner pens. What do we think? Should we play with some gel liner pens and show some tricks? Let's tackle the idea of, I don't want to make my eyes look small. I loved that comment, and I think that's really important. So one of my favorite types of products is a peach colored pencil. You can get white, but I think that white is great for more fashion looks. I love one that's a little more neutral and a little peach toned. One of the things that we can do to keep our eye from looking small is instead of putting a dark liner in here, we put a light colored liner in here, something that is going to brighten this up. Now, what it does is it neutralizes any redness, but it will also really open up this space. And I love a good amount of makeup in the waterline, but again, everything you're doing with makeup is going to be doing something. It's going to have an effect. So if you're putting something dark through here, it's going to close off that space even more. So instead of using something dark, if you use something light, it's instantly going to make the eye look nice and big and bright. Then you can go in with some of your shadow products. And what color do we want to use? Do a little bit around the bottom. And I prefer to use shadow on the lower lash line if I can, and diffuse it because it's just really forgiving. And then I just made my eye look nice and big and just awesome. And I'm taking a second shadow color to blend that out. And when it's not a hard line on the bottom, when it's this really pretty blended line with lighter color in our waterline, it is going to open up our eye, make it look just ginormous. And then again, putting mascara on those bottom lashes, don't be afraid to like go to town down here. And I love a small brush for this. And just using that technique, like look how huge my eye looks compared to that one. I feel like it looks pretty big. And it's a great technique to keep it open. And then I'm going to take a pretty light color with a little light reflection right here, just to make sure that I am opening it up a little bit more. This one, Darnell, is number 20. I have several of these. I love this. I love it for blending. I love it for softening. I love it for smudging. It's one of my faves. It's just such a great size. Okay. And what I love doing also is I did this really pretty like purpley color on top with some depth, but I also love using a different color on the bottom. Like the thing with liner is that it's not always the same color on the top and bottom. And if I'm doing something that's darker on the top, do something a little lighter, do something with a punch of color on the bottom. Like that's a great way to integrate color into your routine is through the liner somehow. You could do all these beautiful browns and neutrals and all this stuff, and then do some sort of pop of liner, whether it just be on the top, whether it just be on the bottom or in the waterline, whatever, and just integrate color in that way. And it's a really fun way to integrate color or trend or just something a little exciting into your routine. And again, shadow is a great way to do it because we can have all these really fun colors and it's easy to just make it into a liner. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do to make sure that it doesn't look like Beckham. We are going to, after we blended it out, once you kind of get mascara on, it can forgive things a little bit. But I love to make sure that I didn't go crazy party girl walk of shame. I'll just take whatever concealer is left on my concealer brush and just go back through here. Make sure I didn't get too much in here. Again, it's that cleanup portion of the evening. You can start with a little Q-tip and do that swirl first. Get my little bit of concealer on here. And then I will go in with one of these little tiny baby blenders and my powder and just give it a quick set like this.
So the powder's setting it so it won't run under your eyes and get in those little creases?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, I like letting stuff live on the skin a little bit too, because again, we're alive and we're warm and stuff can move. And I don't like going crazy with the product, but when we put a little bit of concealer up under here, our eyeshadow can actually set that and it will actually help it grab. But I do like doing a final round where I just go through with that translucent powder and just press it in and make sure it's nice and set. And then it should hold tight and be really good to go. That looks great. Hooray. Good times. Love it. Now let's play with some pencil liners here. I love colorful liner, but let's do a good old classic brown liner look on the other side. This is my blind side, so it's always exciting. Gel pencils are interesting because they are very challenging to actually sharpen to a pointy tip because they are softer. So I always make sure that I do have my handy dandy. This is number 13. I can never remember the numbers of these. But and the trick is, one of the things I see people doing wrong is this pull and distorting the shape. Again, like, cool, it can look great when we're pulling it tight, but I'm not walking around all day like this. You know, we want our makeup to look a certain way when we are relaxed. But relax your brow. And with our eyes open. I have to do it with my eyes open because I'm super blind. But let's just do a really pretty, simple line. And I'm going to show you some other things I like to do with it. A little itch there. Now, I love a little sketching motion. But again, wherever you start with your product is where the most is going to be applied. And a gel pencil is going to lose its point really, really quickly. So I don't always start on all the way outside. I don't always start on all the way inside. I actually start in here just a little bit and sketch, and I work it inward. And then I'm going to pull it out, and I'm really trying to get it into my lashes. You can hold your eyes steady, or you can just, can you see what I'm doing or no? Just do these little sketching motions. And this is something I've had to learn to do with my eye open because I can't see anything if I don't. But I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm not trying to make this precise. I'm trying to get the product on, and I'm going to make it perfect. This is when people say they can't do eyeliner, I'm like, yes, you can. I can't even see my own face, and I can do it. You literally just get it on, and then you take your handy dandy pretty liner brush, and we are going to go in and we are going to, before this sets, we are just gonna run our brush along it and we are gonna smooth it out.
You said the gel sets longer. Is that what it is? It
Any
stays on
type of
longer?
long wearing gel product, they last forever, but they will set. And so if you need to work it, if you need to blend it or soften it, smudge it, fix it, you only have a certain amount of time before it's like set. So I just get one side on. I literally am totally blind. I can't see what I'm doing, but you just go in and you just run it along. Boop, bop, boop, yay. Now notice how it's thinner through here and wider out here. This is one liner technique that I really want to try and instill in people, is that this will make a huge difference in how your liner looks. It is slightly different if you do have a hooded eye because you probably aren't going to see the difference. However, even for someone that does have a very hooded eye, a lot of times we still can see a little bit of lid space. So I really try and get people to embrace the idea that you do want your liner to be thinner through here and wider out here. Now, for bonus points, who knows why?
Elongate, open.
Open, elongate, but again, it's all about that lift. All of these techniques that I really love teaching, a main point is to make sure we create that lift. And so when it's thinner out here and it's wider out this direction, it instantly will do that for you. And I mean, like, I wasn't even remotely trying to be precise when I was putting this product on. I was just literally getting it on. I had my handy dandy skinny brush and I just went over the top. See how I'm not like pulling and tugging and distorting. I'm literally just, I like to use my my ring finger and I just go in and I soften that edge and just make sure it's nice and smooth. And I work the product where I want it. And I try and get it in to my lash line if I can. But that is a really important thing is, again, if I start on this inner corner and I start right in here, it's probably going to be too wide. I actually started in a little bit and I sketched first down this direction to make sure it stayed really nice and thin. Then I worked out this way. You can do back and forth if you want. And then I made sure I got more product right here so I could blend it and just make it a little bit wider. This will make a huge difference because think about what that would look like. And I can maybe try and do it on the other side to show you. If I go really wide right here, really wide here. And then I go and it's, I'm gonna actually take off some of this. I'm gonna show you what it does to how it changes my eye shape.
Oh, wow.
See how different my eye looks on each side? How I made it wide here. And then I just kind of made it, if I make it uniform across, it actually doesn't read like it's uniform across. It actually reads like it went up and it's going down out here. When if I close my eyes, even if it is uniform across, look at the difference in what it did to my eyes. See how this one still looks more lifted and it does look so much more open through here. It's just, I mean, like, look at this. Do you see it, this shape? This eye literally looks like it's downturned and this one literally looks lifted. And again, you can do this with, I just use the gel pencil because I wanted to show you the difference because I think it works really well and really effectively if you just want a look where you feel like you struggle with eyeliner and I just want to get it on and perfect it. I find it works super well with a gel pencil. However, this whole idea of really trying to keep it thinner through here and then widen out here. And then if someone did want to do a wing, this is when you kind of pop on that wing from here. But this is a really important concept because we see how it literally changes how our eye shape reads. And this will absolutely make the eye look heavier with something like that. Does anyone have any questions about that?
That's amazing.
But it's fun if you have time to play also how you can see how these different concepts really like what you're doing with your makeup is doing something. So if you take control over saying like, I know if I do this thing, it's going to have this effect, it's a lot more powerful. So now we're going to play with waterline and I want you to see how my eye shape changes when I actually put or that my eye size changed when I put something darker in the waterline. And I'm gonna switch over to a black. You do want something long wearing when you are doing anything in the waterline, or it's just not gonna last at all. And I do want to add, our eye skin, the skin around our eye is very thin. It's very different than the skin on the rest of our face. It tends to be, have a totally different amount of oil production than the rest of our face too. There are people that can have oily skin and dry eyelids. There are people that can have dry skin and oily eyelids. Like, this is a whole other like universe than the rest of our face. So pay attention to it, pay attention to what it needs. And also know that, like, I can wear something on my waterline and have it last all day. And I've just stuff lasts well in my waterline typically. I know some people that no matter what they use, they feel like it doesn't last for them. Everyone's eye is different, and we all kind of wear makeup differently, and it can just, some of us are a little harder on makeup. So I'm going to just take this and I'm going to rub this in my waterline, and I chose the black on purpose. Again, remember, I used the brown up top, and I'm just, whew, so tickly. You can pull your lid out too if you'd like. And I do a different amount depending on what type of eye look I'm doing. Oh my gosh, my eye is so tickly right now. Hold please. Woo-hoo. Okay, work that out. And I am now going to, what brush do I want to use? I'm going to use my little Smokey liner brush. Again, I always love having a brush on hand, and I'm just going to smudge it just slightly, because I don't want like only a hard line. I don't tend to favor looks where there's nothing else going on except like black in the waterline. But see how doing that, how that changed my eye shape too, and how now it looks very straight across on the bottom, and it actually took away some from the lips. My eye looks much more straight across, much more narrow. Definitely looks smaller than this side for sure, even though this side has the liner that makes it pull more downward. Look how much bigger this eye looks than this eye. And did you guys see that difference? So now this eye lost a little bit of its lift because all I have is that black going straight across. So what can we do? I do want to take a little bit of shadow. What color do we want to play in? And I do like integrating some color. I did brown, so I'm actually going to take some brown. I love mixing blacks and browns. This is something that actually has a little shimmer in it. And I'm going to rebuild in that lift and that size. So I'm going to use shadow along something that reflects light. I'm going to connect the bottom to the top, because remember, when we go top to bottom, it pulls downward. When we go bottom to top, it helps again create that lift. And see how that actually made my eye look bigger again? And if you feel like you need to add a little more matte shadow here, you can too, right in here. But this isn't a shadow tutorial, this is a liner. But I'm kind of doing these things so you can really see how it's actively changing my eye shape as I'm doing this. So I have all these browns that I did on this side, that brown liner, well, brown on the bottom with that black across. And I did that to really open my eye back up. But do you see now? So that's that neutral pencil in my lash line. This is with black. My eyes look like they're a totally different shape and size right now. But it was really important for me to add some shadow underneath here, and something preferably that does catch the light and reflect light, because I did that black to build in that shape, make it not look so straight across, not so severe and garish. Does anyone have any questions about that? And see how we did, and it is fun to integrate color and different things, but okay, question.
What's garish? Is that
garish is kind of like stark and harsh.
Oh, okay.
But adding in that second step makes a really big difference. One of my least favorite looks is when someone only does a hard black line on the bottom, whether it be just in the waterline, whether it be underneath the eye. I feel like it's something that a lot of women do, and it really just takes away from our natural eye shape. And it probably isn't the most flattering. So I'm again just taking my little baby blender and I'm just going back in here to clean up anything else. And then if I wanted to, again, before my mascara, I could go in and do my super fun liner trick where I go in and just stamp that right along the lash line, or do my, and I'll show you this. Look, see how you can kind of see a little skin in there? If I just kind of go in here and just kind of, I'm literally not even wanting it to look like liner. I'm just trying to help fill that gapping. Just kind of stamp it on if I want. And this can be especially important if you are really blending out your liner. You can get a little bit more of that gapping. Then I'll pop on a lash so we can see what this side looks like.
It really looked like your eye was squinting a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it funny how it does that? And
Yeah,
it's all
so
just the width and the shape and all that. I'm just gonna set this lash on here so you can kind of see. The floating lash. And then again, like everything looks weird if you don't have mascara on. Granted, it looks weird that I'm just setting eyelashes on that aren't attached, but it really does complete a look. This one is so funny. But again, even with a lash on, you can see the difference in the shape and the angle. Mascara will help with that. See how with the liner, it made it very downturned. Your lash is going to help create additional lift, and your mascara will do that. But making sure you're making the right choices with your liner makes a really, really, really big difference. And it does just take so much practice. Well, not like so much, but again, it's like finding the right texture that works for you, finding the right brush that works for you. I mean, even with angled brushes or liner brushes, I was sorting all my brushes tonight. I probably have 40 different liner brushes. I have problems, but there's just so many different options. And even the same brush from the same manufacturer, they will be a little bit different. No, they're not always going to be exactly the same. So finding the tools that work for you, finding the textures that work for you, and then being willing to commit to practicing makes a very big difference. Now, what other questions? Oh, this one's missing a cap. What other questions do you all have for me right now? Do you feel like we learned a couple things?
Yes, but can we do it again?
Yeah, right now we'll just start over. That sounds fun.
This was so good.
Should we try the vamp stamp for fun and see how we do? This thing's awesome, actually. It's really funny. Okay, let's do the smaller one and see. You could just stamp it on. Now, one thing I will say is that, ooh, that's fun. You just kind of attach it. Now I'm going to do this at a different angle on purpose, and I want to show you this because I want this to be another lesson. But I'm going to try and make this one more upward angled, and I want to show you how this works this way too. So this one is going very straight and out. This one we're going to have go up. I did a great job with that. Don't judge me. But I want to show you this. Same thing. See how that disappears and see how long that looks?
Mm-hmm.
Ignore its hovering friend. I can pretend it's like fashion. It's a deconstructed detached liner. It's super in right now, guys.
It is.
But don't question it. But this little Q-tippy bubby. But okay, see how just the angle that I place this liner, how it reads totally differently? You can totally see it. It's going out like this. Again, this eye looks much more elongated. This one, it's because it's going across where I have those folds of skin. And so it vanishes. So your angle is going to make all the difference in the world. I'm just going to go in and paint this now. And I have to actually pull it down further and out more. And see how when I pulled it in like that? Like,
Yeah.
see how it looks like that when my eye is closed and how it looks like that when my eye's open? All because this is a more upward angle and this one went straight out.
So it doesn't necessarily have to follow the line of edge of your bottom lash to your eyebrow.
No.
It can go out.
No, I mean, like, those rules are so, like,
Generic.
it is, like, our faces are different. Like, heck, I don't even have two of the same eyeballs. Like, they don't work the same. They're not the same shape. Like, they're, like, it's not like, these rules are so, like a blanket statement. It's about finding that symmetry and finding the angle that works. Like, I do different angles all the time. And I will tell you that our muscle memory is totally different. So when I'm doing this motion and I'm pulling upward this way, it's different than when I have to cross my body and then do something on this side. And it could be different than a pull. Our push and our pull motion is totally different. That's why I like doing those sketching motions when I do lips or when I do liner, because we're compensating for those differences in our muscle memory with our push and our pull motion. But like, I also have a tendency when I do my makeup to totally turn my head when I do stuff on this side. And then when I do stuff on this side, because my arm is crossed my body, I look straight ahead in the mirror. That's not going to help me do stuff the same. So pay attention to those things too. Like, turn your head, check different things, look differently. And just, I like sitting because I can stabilize myself, but pay attention to really what you do on one side, and don't try and do the exact same thing, but you want to try and make it look the same. Like, my brows, I don't even think, I mean, I'm the worst at even getting my brows the same length out here. So again, if I make this brow shorter than this brow, and then I try and follow this line to the edge of my brow, they're going to go a different direction too. One of the things I taught one of my best friends was to get a wedge sponge. I love these. You know, I love these. These are a great way to help find that line also and what works for you with your thin liner brush and some shadow. I just actually got all that liner all over that. So I'm going to grab a different, just little brush. And what you can do is you can take a wedge if you want. Watch this. You see people do all this stuff with tape and all this stuff. Like, just take a little wedge. Take your little wedgie friend on your little brush, pick an angle, and just, again, remember, we can use shadow to map it out. I'm just kind of mapping it out with shadow, and see how that's a totally different angle than that first one. But it does a better job of following this line on this side. So if you struggle to get stuff the same, take your little wedgie friend, fill it in. And this, I'm not even using an angle brush. I'm just taking one of these really great number 20 brushes and doing that. And then I could leave it as shadow. I can go over the top with a pencil. I can go over the top with a pen, gel, whatever I want. But this is such a great technique also. See again how it's different when you are working on different sides of your body, but you can just go in and use that and figure out what angle you want. And this is also a really great technique if you feel like you pull down too far with your shadow. I've taught people, like, you're not allowed to blend your shadow unless you have your little wedge there, because it's going to create that barrier so you're not pulling down too far. But see that difference, that how it's a totally different angle. Neither one of them is right or wrong. They're just different, you know? So you just pick, and you can use any side of these, whatever works for you. But I find that, and sometimes you can also go across the whole bottom, you know, like we were doing earlier, Marla, how we were taking it from the bottom lash line up. See how I can use this to create a line all the way up from the bottom, like that. There's just a lot of things that you can do that help with the ease and accessibility. And then you just clean it up. There are so many times I actually do this, and I do this side much higher and then this one straight out, and I'm like, handy dandy Q-tip time. Let's just make them the same. It's great. Don't even worry about it. And then they're much more even. Granted, this one's much more exaggerated, but
I love it.
You get the gist. You get the gist of it. I just want to keep playing, but I'm out of time. we can always do a part 2, but did you all learn something? Did you see the difference in how those techniques make a really big impact on our eye shape and eye size, and how you aren't limited by what you have? Like, figure out what works for you, find a texture that works, prioritize. Do you want it to be long wearing? Do you want blendability? Do you want pigment level? And really find the product that is going to check the boxes that you prioritize, and then just figure out what actually works for you. Because you can really get the same effect. Like, I can do a black wing with a ton of different products and have it look exactly the same. But there are definitely certain products and combinations that are much easier for me to execute than others. So it does take some playing. And there's always Vamp Stamp. There's always a Vamp Stamp if you need a little extra help.
Well, actually, I got the Vamp Stamp for my mom, and she does really well with it.
It's so cool.
I know. I didn't think she'd use it. She hasn't used it for a little while, but she did a great job with it.
Okay.
It's seriously not
really
called
cool.
that, is it?
Yeah.
It is. It's called Vamp Stamp. It's a company. It's
It's not a tramp stamp, Mom. It's a vamp
It's a
stamp.
vamp.
It's
Because
okay.
it's a
You can
vampy
have
look.
one.
Well, there's a
It's a
difference.
vampy look.
There's a
Vampy.
difference. Yeah.
So again, it's about really like finding what works and then just going for it. So
Awesome.
I'm so glad you all came and hung out for everything eyeliner party this evening.
Which one is your guys' favorite on me? You're different.
I gotta find you
Oh,
and put on my glasses.
yeah. I need to see that again. Let's see.
Talk, Kellyanne, so we can focus on you.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello.
Keep talking. 'Cause then we can
Hello?
see.
Hello.
Ooh, totally different.
I
Well, I
like
like
them
the
both,
lip.
but I kind of like your left eye.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say too, because that creates that eye is more elongated and has more of a lift.
I like it too. And it has purple. So
That's always a winner also.
Yeah.
Well, yay.
thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
That was fun.
Thank you so much for coming, and try these techniques. Let me know how they work. Let me know what questions you have. We can always tackle them. Again, like, we're going to plan on doing at least quarterly, because last week we did a Q&A session where people just came with their questions, and was that last week? Yeah. And we
That
just
was
went through, and it was such a great session where we went through all sorts of questions people had, makeup and skincare related. So make sure you jot down any questions. We can always tackle those on a Q&A, and we can always do a round 2 of everything eyeliner. So thanks. Oh, and don't forget, like, this eyeliner set is amazing. I actually haven't even opened mine yet, but it has 5 double-ended gel liners, including the new one that has purple and gold. So it's 10 eyeliners in this bad boy, and it's amazing. And we also have awesome sets that you can customize a mascara and any type of eyeliner that we have with it. We have a lot of really cool options. So get with your beauty guide. If you have any questions, let them know, because we love being your extra special beauty person in your life. And everyone have a great week. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks,
Good night,
Stephanie.
everybody.